playoff spots are soon to be snatched up. See which teams can secure their position in the top 6 with the games today. The first match has 2 playoff hopefuls looking to bounce back from a loss just yesterday. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NA LCS Countdown, where for 30 minutes we duel it out in drafts and paint the playoff picture until the timer reaches 0 and we jump into Champions Select. Before we talk about the postseason, let's take a look at the standings. Only Team Liquid and 100 Thieves hold a spot in the top 6, leaving 4 remaining for everyone else. While technically anybody can grab those spots, if Clutch Gaming, Counter Logic Gaming, or Golden Guardians drop to 11 losses, they're officially locked out of the playoff race. With playoff positioning on the line, Cloud9 announces that in lieu of continuing with the roster that has gone 6-1, they've decided to bring in Svenskeren and Golden Glue for today's match. Reaper, with a lot of community criticism, to follow immediately the announcement, did go on Twitter to justify the move, saying that Jensen, Blabber, Golden Glue, and Svenskeren are practice duos that cover for each other's weaknesses, and very specifically, they wanted to play this duo against Team Liquid because they feel they have a better chance of winning with these two. Jad, what are you thinking about this move?
So I understand that people that have full faith in Reaper can buy that reasoning. And I also think Golden Glue deserves a starting spot, as does Svenskeren. But I also completely disagree with Reaper doing this because they are on a 5-game winning streak. They were 1-5 with roster swaps. They found something stable. They've won a bunch of games thanks to their mid-jungle synergy. Jensen hasn't died for 3 games. C9's looking like one of the best teams. They're not even in playoffs yet. They have a 1-game lead over the team in 7th. Every single win matters. You do not mess with the team that is winning. You don't do that in sports. So I am very upset that they are doing this change. Even if it works, they can win, and I would still say the move is wrong. Because if they win with this roster, that means they could have won with Jensen and Blabber as well.
Mark, where do you land on all this?
I'm not quite on the Jad extreme. I'm not happy about the move either, but I can potentially see what he's hinting at here with Reaper, because we had touched on it on some of the post-game segments where it's like, yeah, Blabber looks really good, but he's only playing these kind of aggressive jungle champions. And if you're on red side and you're trying to go for a more counter-pick focused lane, you saw Golden Glue playing the Fizz Nikali in Academy, and you probably want to tank your jungler to support that mid lane pick, which means it's probably hard to get that with Blabber and his playstyle, and so you swap to Sven and Golden Glue on red side to counter-pick Team Liquid. I can see that working, but I'm with Jat here, where I'd still prefer to stick with what's gotten you back into the playoff hunt when you were so far out of it.
Some thoughts from the analyst. Pobelter himself seems to support that when he was asked about differences in C9's players, he has had a harder time against Sven and Golden Glue.
I guess the difference between the two is I think Golden Glue, Sven, is more like stable, and I think Sven has a lot more experience, so I think he's just like a lot smarter in how he plays, and Blabber Jensen is more like reckless, I guess, and then they just go for kind of risky plays. Actually, I find it harder to play against Golden Glue and Sven, but I think they're both like pretty similar.
200 IQ Pobelter, trying to get C9 to mix up their winning formula and tell them that scrims are what matters on
Somebody
stage.
overheard
Why does that help
and
Team
they're
Liquid?
like,
Well, because they're playing against them. If they,
Yeah, it's a regular season game, and they're already clinched for playoffs.
They want first place, dude.
Here's what I'm thinking. The Ultra Mind game is coming through. They've swapped out the jungle mid duo so that Kindred and Zillion will be left up.
and
then Sven and Golden Glue are just still going to play Kindred and Zillion, and it's going to catch Team
That would be a
Liquid
tip of the cap.
completely. Yeah, right? Then you're a fan of the move.
I thank Reaper for giving people even more stakes in this game. Because now, no matter what happens, you're going to be trying to slam them for doing it or defend them because it worked out.
It's very true. It's either way, success or defeat. It's going to be a topic of discussion. Moving right along, though, I do want to talk about the other 3 teams that are in the race for playoff spots. Cloud9 being one of them, but FlyQuest, Optic, and TSM. Let's talk about these squads.
Well, for me, even though there's 4 teams, 3 spots that we're kind of looking at, with the strength of schedule that FlyQuest has ahead of them, I'm pretty much willing to stick them into one of those playoff spots. They have 2 of the easiest opponents left, 2 of the last place teams, and then they close it out with Cloud9, who's very strong. But even if they pick up those 2 wins, that should give them enough victories to qualify for playoffs. So I'm willing to bet my pride on the fact that FlyQuest is almost a shoo-in.
You're considering them in
basically considering them in, barring a massive upset by one of the other teams.
I think they will probably make it, but I'm not going to bet Mark's pride
I will
on
bet
it.
everyone.
You won't even
Everyone
bet
in the
Mark's
NA
pride
LCS
on it.
on it.
I bet Mark's
I mean,
pride
have
on
you been
it.
watching
I don't know how
the
much
same
that's
NA
worth.
LCS this split? Like a 5-10 team versus 7-9 team. Like that's not a sure thing at
Right.
all. That's like a 60-40 in those
All right,
games. I don't know.
well, okay, but if we take what Mark says to be true, that suggests that there are only 3 teams then fighting for the final 2 spots. We already touched on Cloud9, so let's talk about those final 2, both TSM and Optic.
Yeah, I think TSM Optic is a game that's still yet to be played, so that's going to be able to decide a lot. But TSM, I think, has one of the hardest schedules, as well as Optic having an incredibly hard schedule. Aside from the game they play against each other, they're playing teams right at the top of the standings. So both of these teams, in a sense, kind of need to pick up one of those clutch wins, because if they do, then the game against each other matters a lot less.
Yeah, and that's why I think it even is more in FlyQuest's favor, just because those 2 teams who are battling for the same spot still need to play each other for it, and that's going to be a tough road for
A
them.
narrowing playoff picture, only so much time to make moves in the standings. Let's check out what challenges those teams will face in our schedule, presented by Jersey Mike Subs. First up, Optic Gaming look to take down Echo Fox, followed by Golden Guardians aiming to defeat Clutch Gaming, with Freak, Deftly, and Contracts bringing you Game 4 from the NA LCS Lounge on Riot Games 2 later in the day. If you're in need of a Hextech chest and a sandwich, then head over to jerseymikes.com, where using the promo code JMNALCS gets you a minimum of both of those 2 things and the added chance of winning an all-expenses VIP trip to the summer finals. Now, looking at the matchup in just 22 minutes, I want to get thoughts, or the coach's thoughts, on bouncing back from a loss in the face of playoffs.
The team is always confident going into every game. You just have to remind everyone to trust our scrim results, because even though something might not work on stage, it definitely worked in scrims. So you still have to have that confidence, even though something might have not panned out the way that you thought it would, just to really trust yourself and just keep in mind that obviously you're still top players. Losing 1 game isn't everything. The Optic matchup is actually going to be pretty good, because I think that Power of Evil has been playing really well lately, and top lane matchup is probably going to be pretty volatile. So I do expect most of the action to be around mid and top, and our bot lane's probably going to do really well.
I think the race for playoff is quite hard for us because, yeah, of course, obviously having 100 Thieves, Echo Fox, and Team Liquid plus TSM who's trying to catch up. They're there in a do-or-die situation, just as we are. So I think it's pretty hard. It's pretty rough to go over these teams, but it's not they are not unbeatable. Most of the teams manage to pull a victory against them, so there is a chance for that.
A bit of confidence coming out of ThinkCard, saying that, hey, a loss every once in a while does not degrade the value of the players or the status of these top-tier players. On the side of Zabatine, a little bit more tempered in his approach, but saying it's very much doable for this squad when it comes to making it to playoffs.
And you can be a lot more confident as ThinkCard when you have 2 more wins with 3 games to go than the other team that's talking. So
Without a doubt.
it would be quite a collapse if Echo Fox failed to make playoffs.
Ahead of that matchup, though, I want to get some win conditions up on the board. Mark, starting with you, you've got Optic Gaming.
Yep, red side in this matchup, so I'm going with counter the top lane pick that they can go for. That's something Dokka's been doing for quite a while now, and then bait the kind of first half Huni you were seeing with really aggressive trading early on and try and get that snowball working. He has been susceptible to getting pulled into fights that he shouldn't be taking, and if you can get Dokka ahead, I think that's one of the best ways for Optic to win.
A lot of focus around the top lane and that split push pressure. What's the response for Echo Fox?
One thing that they've done a lot of that I don't think they should do is picking Huni on a tank. So I'd say keep him off a tank, and then you can get a bit of a power pick or a counter pick mid. So as blue side, even though red side is the counter pick, if you just save both your solo lanes for the second half of the draft, you get to counter pick one of those 2 lanes. And I think Echo Fox should absolutely look to do that.
All right, well, that match is coming up in just about 20 minutes. But for Game 3, TSM face off against 100 Thieves. And in a battle between 2 teams who favor slower games, I'm asking Jat and Mark to play coach and challenge one another in a dueling draft. So we're going to get our fancy new tool up onto the screen here. These guys have done their prep. That's why you see these sheets in their hands. We've pre-populated the first phase of bans, so they submitted these. Yep. We're going to roll it out from here.
So basically, I tried to simulate what 100 Thieves was doing for the most part with their bans, and they went for pretty much a constant Aatrox, Rakan, and Nocturne. Jap picked up my Nocturne. Wasn't quite sure what I should go with, so I got rid of Bjergsen's, what looks like his best champion for a little while.
Yeah,
Alrighty.
this was tricky. I mainly just tried to get rid of reuse roamers, since that's actually what I feel like they can be most successful on, as champion pool has been relatively shallow. And also with Zoe ban, that drops it even more. My dilemma with this first pick is whether or not to first pick Akali or first pick Kindred, because with Nocturne ban, Kindred is the best jungler, but Akali is also extremely powerful, and Bjergsen's played a lot of it. I don't think they need to take that risk in this game, so I'm actually going to be going with the Kindred as the first pick.
All righty. So that gives me my 2 champions I was hoping for. I can lock these in pretty quick.
We're going to do Braum and Varus.
Braum and Varus, how'd you know?
Oh, wow, so creative, Mark.
Yeah, I really worked hard to come up with these 2 picks. It's in no way some of their most played champions, so.
Yeah, that's if Mark wouldn't have taken Braum and Varus, I probably would have taken Braum and Varus.
Yep.
But we've also seen this other really strong combo from a different North American LCS team. With Kindred, if you take Zillion, you're actually super good because Bjergsen's a very good Zillion.
We know that Bjergsen's a Zillion player.
Yeah, even though like Braum is taken and that's the best for this combo, another thing that is also super good for this combo is Tom Kench, and I don't want him to be able to ban.
Now you got the triple safety.
You got a lot of safety, and we'll see what we have to fill out in the next bit.
All right, Mark, this strategy is fairly telegraphed, though, at this point. So what are you going to do with the remainder of your draft?
On the desk yesterday, we were talking about how, like, in-game, it seems pretty hard to counter out. You need to do something in champ select. The problem is, I'm not exactly sure what that is. I'm going to go with something that seems to work pretty well versus Kindred and is a champion that, you know, for the most part, Ando will perform on. Gragas, not much of a surprise there.
Yep.
And now going to my ban phase, I'm probably going to target Marksman since that's what they're currently missing out on. And top lane pool is still open between the 2 of us. It's one of our desynced picks here. So I'm going to start targeting some other things like the Ezreal, which Sven tends to play a lot of.
Fair enough. My bans right now is making sure you don't have stuff to target Zillion, so I'm getting rid of some of the strong stuff on the patch. I think Fizz is potentially scary against Zillion. Honestly, I don't know the matchup's amazing. This is where I'd be asking Jensen and Jensen to get them, but I also do know what C9 was banning against it. It was stuff like Zoe, it was stuff like this.
They banned LeBlanc against it, I believe.
I'm going to get there.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to give it away too much.
I was about to
Oh, sorry.
Have you checked
This is the problem. You get 2 coaches on
what is
stage.
this?
This is what
well,
the 2
actually,
coach
100
feels
Thieves
like.
only uses 1, and TSM does use 2.
I mean,
so it is
exactly.
fair. From this point on, though, another marksman ban. Zaya's not really going to get played here. Potentially the Kai'Sa, which is what C9 likes to run with it a lot of the time. So I actually will get rid of the Kai'Sa for my last ban there.
I think that's a good ban. My last ban actually is going to be LeBlanc as well, because I think that is good threat against Zillion.
All right, so the second ban phase, rather, is complete. We got our first pick here in the second phase from Mark.
Yeah, so this is the tough one. You banned out a couple of the assassin matchups I thought about potentially trying. He has been playing a fair amount of LeBlanc and Fizz and solo queue.
Why don't you pick your top laner?
Does he
so
play
like,
a
I'm not
Kali?
going to pick my top laner.
Does he play a Kali?
He does. He did put a couple games in a Kali, but I'm not quite sure I'm ready to
think
pick.
he's
Stage
gonna
ready,
be
Mark?
Mark?
Like a Ryu Akali pick. So I think I might just go for a more common pick that people sometimes play into things like the Kindred when people get low, and he has played it a couple times. I'm not sure if this is actually a great matchup, but I'm going to go with the Swain.
Okay.
Oh, I'm going to need to throw another letter in there.
There we go.
Swain
Yeah. Narrow it
lane.
down.
I was thinking about maybe Orianna.
Swain.
Some
How would
kind of
Syndra do? This is just a separate question. I'm trying to think of counter picks or.
It feels a little telegraphed. Into,
Okay.
If it's a single target burst champion into
pretty
Zillion.
easy when the Cinder Balls are flying.
So I was
to
looking
get
for
the,
some kind of
that
AoE.
art.
Maybe
Okay.
Orianna's better.
Oh,
Swain.
okay. I like the idea of the AoE as well to deal with the Kindred ult, right? Like
Right.
everyone comes out of Kindred ult, and then I get to act. You know.
That's what I'm thinking. And this,
Second
if I don't know which one's the better lane matchup, so one of those 2 most likely for me. I don't know.
I like the bans you did because I was wanting to do Ezreal, but I feel like Ashe is good in this situation, especially with the Tom Kench. You're allowed to be a little bit lower mobility, and it's one of the things that can at least kind of keep up with Varus in the laning phase.
Right.
And this is now the most difficult part of the draft because you're having to blind pick your top laner into
For Haunter,
Sunday.
into
but
someday.
He hasn't put many bans towards it, and I think the thing that
Sunday's confident.
Haunter is always going to default back into is the Gnar. Just because later in the game he's
I
going to
had
have
a
a large
feeling.
amount of effect.
Now, a lot of teams in this situation we've seen do something like the Cho'Gath or the Mundo.
Yep.
And we've actually been questioning that a lot in terms of, you know, what the response would be, but Gnar kind of circumvents that. Ooh, we're going for the chase here into the
That's
Gnar
something.
pick.
Tracking these guys solo queue as well, they've been practicing a ton of sides of both the carry versus carry matchup,
Yep.
so Jace is absolutely something that could work in this matchup.
Yeah, and it's something where I think with how much focus there is around the comp that Jeff put together, there wasn't as much focus in top lane. As these guys actually usually put into the draft phase, a lot of the times you see GP bans thrown at both these guys because they're both monsters on GP. So I think our drafts came out pretty different just due to the nature of this comp that Jeff put together. Whereas I think most of the time you would see GP bans or one of them blinding the GP and forcing the other one to take a counter matchup.
So how do you feel about these compositions that you ended up with?
So I like the idea of hopefully being able to split if the Jace can get ahead early on and then not have to deal with this insane
tough
mid
to split
lane.
against TK.
That's true.
So, so like lane matchup wise, you know, how are things going? What's the strategy of the 100 Thieves comp? Yes, split push is an option if someday gets ahead, but if he doesn't, are you worried about that 5v5 team fighting phase?
I'm pretty worried about the 5v5 just from what we've seen out of C9 when they execute on this, but I should have winning side lanes in both lanes. The mid lane matchup is the one that I had the least information on, and that's when I'd hopefully be able to defer to Ryu, one of the players, to help me out with what they think would be the best matchup in there so I can get a stable mid lane matchup and focus more on getting my side lanes ahead.
What about for you on the side of TSM?
Well, my biggest worry is one of the side lanes is going to lose because Jace is going to have top pressure against Gnar, and I also have a weaker bot lane because he has Varus Braum, so that's going to be a struggle. It basically means that Grig has a very, very hard game as the Kindred, but he's probably camping mid anyway.
I was going to say, because that's what we've seen Cloud9 do is go mid, so you're
Part
saying
of my draft goals was
sack the
actually
lanes.
strong bottom side, but then I said, but if I can get the Cloud9 combo, since I think C9 should be able to play with it, I'm going to do that. So I did that anyway, and that sacrificed.
You nervous, Mark? You dropping stuff on stage?
No, I just don't need anything anymore. I won the draft.
There it is, won the draft. Mark thinks he won the draft. We'll see how much those team comps resemble what we see in Game 3, but for now, we're going to step away. When we return, the Wheel of Misfortune gets another spin, and we get the audience to help us with another Jat Stats. That and a bit more after this. Welcome back to the NA LCS Countdown. We've made our way out to the arena because when Mark and I get embarrassed, we like to put that out front live in front of an audience. So first off, we're going to kick things off with some Jat Stats. I'm sure you've done your work and have prepared some... Oh, the jingle, of course.
Oh, my.
Man, there is something
Interesting.
going on behind the scenes.
Yeah,
what are you doing to people?
I'm not sure, Mark. I got to say, I got some good Jat Stats this week. Did you know Jensen hasn't died since week 6?
Yes. Yes, I did.
But I'm going to ask you then, who has the most deathless games? Because it's not Jensen in the NA LCS this
Well,
week.
yeah, he hasn't played every game.
It's obviously not
So,
Jensen.
yeah,
that was just to get into the question.
Oh, that was the context setting for...
So
all right, so who's...
I'm going to go with the KDA King, definitely.
Definitely, right?
Yeah. That feels
but-
like an easy...
But, I mean, he's got to have, like, if you're going to lose... But if you're a losing record, you die once in that
that's
boss,
potentially
right?
true.
You got to
Another-
die once.
Another good option would be Someday. He has
So
the
a-
highest KDA of top laners.
Right, a fully
and they're
deathless
winning.
game suggests that you can't have
you
that
wanna-
bad of a losing
Deathless
record.
Do you want to
games.
split this one?
This player has 7
I mean,
deathless games.
I would go with Someday if you want to go with definitely the
I'll
KDA.
stick with definitely.
Okay,
Why
I'll
not?
go with
I'm probably
Someday,
wrong here.
the KDA leading.
Yes, definitely.
Of course.
Yeah, of course it's
it is.
definitely. Mark
Whenever
gets
we
it.
split.
Whenever Mark has a good
Whenever we
idea, Dash
split,
doesn't
of
listen to
course.
the good idea. Whenever Mark has a bad idea, Dash listens to the bad idea.
Yes, yeah.
That's usually how it goes. Next question actually
Wow.
has to do with gold share. So we all know Power of Evil has the highest gold share, but that includes funnel games. So in non-funnel games, which player has the highest gold share in the NALCS?
Non-funnel game.
Is this also saying that PoE no longer has the highest?
I mean, he might have both.
That's what I was about to ask.
doesn't exclude him.
It's one of those
I
sly
think it might be a trick
questions.
one.
Oh, Jet, we found you out.
Did we?
I don't know, because it's another one of Mark's ideas, and if I
This
go
is one
along
of my
with
bad
it, you
ideas.
know 100%
I'm saying
we're gonna
saying
be wrong.
PoE again.
You're gonna say PoE.
Even in non-funnel games.
I'm gonna go with...
Oh wait, dude, does Smite mid games count as funnel games?
I need Sass to check on that, actually.
Oh, thanks for having your stats well prepared.
Because
Jet.
I just used
Yeah.
the filter.
Right? These are your stats, Jet. You're supposed
Yeah.
to
If I ask a
prepare.
question, you should know, because I might be Mickey. 'cause
Okay,
he's played
it's
a lot
not
of-
PoE. Change your guess.
It's
Okay,
not
Mickey
PoE.
with gold funnel Smite.
Woo!
Okay,
With the Talon, do a couple
Smite.
Talon games, like
Yeah.
jacked up his gold share.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
a pretty good guess.
Okay.
Sure, why not?
I like your clarification, but it's actually Stixay.
Whoa.
Players. Yeah, you wouldn't expect it to be Stixay, but you think, they did one funnel game with Huhi, but Stixay with Biofrost apparently gets a lot of farm, and unfortunately hasn't been able to get it to victory.
no one else is getting farmed too, I
Final
guess.
question. We asked the audience on this one. It was a multiple choice, so a lot of you guys out there got to say it. Just which player in the NALCS has the highest damage per minute, 3 games minimum to qualify?
Game
for
minimum.
this
All right, so before we answer, we're going to take a look at what some of the audience members here today had to say.
So I think the highest damage per minute probably belongs to Huni because he's a top laner. He's usually also the one that's either hard inting or hard carrying. So I'm going with that one.
Maybe Lost, just because he's so new to the split, so he has like less time to bring that lower.
Lost. Absolutely lost.
I'm gonna go with Golden Glue, locking it in.
I think Huni has the highest damage per minute.
Cooney.
I think Power of Evil because he's been hard carrying Optic so much this year, and he's had some huge pop-off games on Talon.
I'm probably gonna have to say Golden Glue here.
I really think that Huni does, not just because like he's on a pretty good team. I just think he's really cool. And he's a really cool guy.
Great answer.
All right,
Those are
so
some good
the multiple
answers.
choice for that is Huni, Golden Glue, Power of Evil, and Lost.
So
I
here's
don't think it's Huni.
my difficulty with this is that whenever I sort, I usually use 5-game minimum. so
not 3-game
yeah,
minimum.
So it's a different
Right, so
number.
there's somebody who's played 4 games.
Yeah, I
that's
don't
now
know.
flying under your radar. I don't think it's Huni. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, I don't think it's Huni.
Okay.
I would go PoE because I think that's what I saw when I was doing 5-game minimum like a week or 2 ago.
I think
But
that's
I
a
don't remember
solid
seeing.
answer.
I don't think Golden Glue played 5 games, so I would never have seen his numbers.
Right, but that's why I want to go with Golden Glue, I think.
All right, lock one in.
I'm going to go Golden Glue.
PoE.
It's Huni.
Whoa!
Everyone says Huni's been underperforming, but he's been doing the damages. The
How
Gnar
is
game
this
was like at 800
possible?
DPM. His Rumble games are around 700 or 800 DPM.
Right, and then he just got smashed as
but he always
Mundo.
hits you
Like,
while he's dying
I guess that's true.
for a lot of damage. He's
That's
always
true.
in
It
action.
doesn't have to be good damage to be damage.
Yeah.
It can just be death
Highest DPM
damage.
in the league as a top laner.
Oh,
I got
my
one
goodness.
Yeah, good job,
Yeah,
Mark.
Mark
take
got
it.
one right. All right, well, moving on. Next up, conversations around MVP. Of course, we've only got 3 games left in the split for each team, and so this conversation is heating up. We threw up some potential MVP candidates onto the Wheel of Misfortune. We're going to spin this, and you guys are going to have to make the case for why they should be this summer's MVP.
Yeah.
Jad, let's start with you.
All right, I've gotten really good at this spinning thing that Mark hasn't gotten good at. Look at how insane.
Oh, you were so good there,
When
Jad.
you're on that side that it spins, it's suddenly easier.
All right, Licorice. C9's Licorice. The only guy to not get subbed out on the team.
Yeah, so
MVP.
this one, I think a lot of people wouldn't even consider, but if you look at the numbers, he's right there. So many people say, oh, Someday is the best player in the league. Oh, Someday is the MVP candidate. Licorice has better gold breakpoints than Someday at almost every stage of the game. The team has been under more roster changes, and they're only about 2 wins back in the win column. So if they continue to win out, there's a chance they could actually finish higher than them. The fact that you say, what would happen if Impact was on this team in C9? You think they would be worse. That means Licorice is actually putting in a monster effort. So that's my case for Licorice of MVP. The team has been in total turmoil. He's the best top lane numbers in the league, arguably, and that's why.
It's a solid one. That's a solid case. It still requires them to finish strong here in
They
these
have to
last
finish.
3
They have to
games.
3-0. So they have to beat TL. They have to beat 100 Thieves.
Got it. All right, Mark, you're up. Spin the wheel.
I installed a button.
Doesn't work.
No, it does.
Yeah,
Just a
it
little
works.
delay.
It's a little
There you
delay,
go.
yeah.
I didn't want to
Faulty wiring.
Yeah.
He didn't have much time to install it today.
There we go.
Here we go. And Afro move for 100 Thieves. So a lot of people would immediately think Someday when they think 100
Right.
Thieves MVP. You have to make the case for the support.
Well, it's going to go back to the fact that he was the MVP last split. The team is back in 2nd place again, and a lot of it comes down to his playmaking still in a lot of these games. If you look at his Rakan, he's got 5 Rakan games popping off in every single one of them, and they're continuing to stomp in those games. So I think that's a big part of it. The late game shot calling is still something that they've been able to squeak out, and as much as you can say Someday has improved in lane compared to last split, and he's making some more individual plays, the crux of how this team wins is still Afromu and his amazing shot calling, and with a little bit of time left to squeak out, they could get 1st place in the regular season again, which is exactly what happened to helping secure his 1st one.
They could very much do that. Guess what? We got time for one more. So, Mark, hit that button again.
I'm hitting the button again?
Yeah. Oh, double button. I don't know who's going to argue for this.
Yeah,
I just
'cause
needed,
Jack-
I needed
Jack
the wheel.
might,
I needed the wheel to spin again, so I figured the button was the easier ask. Double lift.
Double lift.
All right, TL's double lift. They're the #1 team right now. Who wants to take it?
You press the button.
How many times can Double Lift be on the #1 team and not be considered MVP? He's got the best 80 carry numbers from the split. He's
So your
a leader
argument
on
is
this
why
team.
not?
He's a spring split champion. So I think there's definitely going to
It's
be
about time.
It's about
that's what a lot of voters I think are actually going to be voting off of
Yeah.
if they finish 1st place. If they don't lose another game the rest of the split and 14-4 with a bunch of parity with Double Lift, as soon as the 80 carry meta comes back, him just winning and going undefeated, I think he would be a shoo-in.
1st place team has the by far primary carry on it. It's kind of hard to argue against that.
All right, I hear it. Lastly, we got to take a look at your guys' predictions for the day. So let's get those up onto the screen. Are there any differences? Yeah, we got one.
Mark's going
TSM
for
100
TSM.
Thieves.
You always predict TSM.
I know.
Well, so this is, funnily enough, you guys actually had to draft in the dueling draft segment for the teams
Yeah.
that you thought would lose this matchup. Why are you going for TSM, though?
Blue side, baby.
Blue side advantage,
tough.
and they got it? Yeah, I think what you saw there, like there were so many options for Jat in that draft. He could have gone with the Kali first pick, which Bjergsen has put a fair amount of games on in solo queue. He went with this comp that we've seen C9 running that no one has found a counter to yet. He could have grabbed a million other things depending on what he did with the bans and could have forced me to ban Nocturne. He gets Zoe. They can play Syndra into the Zoe if they want to. And I think just with how much blue side controls the draft and TSM starting to look a little bit better.
Draft advantage for TSM.
There was that stat that I picked TSM 12 times in a row at one point in this season, so could just be a little bit of favoritism.
I think 100 Thieves is one of the teams that can do better on red side as far as counter-picking the top lane. I do think blue side is advantaged in draft, but specifically the way 100 Thieves plays the mid game and usually wins from that point, and the fact that TSM also hasn't blown people up, just makes me think it's going to get to 25 minutes, be even, and then 100 Thieves is going to win.
All right, we got to wait till game 3, though, to figure out which one of you is right. Up first, we got Echo Fox versus Optic Gaming. Time for us to toss it up to the casters to get us into game.